when Allah spoke in Surat Al-Kahf. Remember, Surat Al-Kahf of the Quran, the surah of the cave, is the only surah about which Allah's Messenger said it's connected with Dajjal. The only surah. So this is a surah of paramount importance for Akhir Zaman. He said, recite the first 3 or the first 10 or the last 10 verses of Surah Al-Kahf for protection from the fitna of Dajjal. And secondly, this is the surah which introduces the subject of Gog and Magog. And so this surah is par excellence the surah of Akhir Zaman or eschatology. And this surah helps us to understand what is happening in Russia and Ukraine at this time. But you need some insight, and you need to be able to devote proper study to the subject. And this is what I'm sharing with you in this brief video. Remember that there are 2 kinds of verses in the Quran by Allah's wisdom. There are those verses which are plain and clear and must not be interpreted. They are the muhkamat. But there are other verses which have to be interpreted. How do you know which verse is muhkama, which verse is mutashabihat? Answer, it is with insight, not only rational faculty, but in addition to that, knowledge which comes internally. And this is the model of scholarship of Khidr alayhi salam. And in Surah Al-Kahf we are introduced to QARNain. QARNain, of course, can mean 2 horns. And those who choose to accept 2 horns, well then let them explain the subject as they choose. But we say, since Allah has never used the word qarn to mean a horn in the Quran, never. And the word qarn occurs in the Quran maybe a dozen or more times. In the Quran, the word qarn always means a people, a generation, an epoch. So our view is that QARNain means 2 periods of time, 2 people, 2 generations. And the Quran proceeded to speak about the first qarn, but not about the second. And so now, our Prophet said that when Gog and Magog are released from behind that barrier, when he collapses the barrier, and this happened in the lifetime of the Prophet ﷺ, the evidence is there that the barrier was brought down in the lifetime of the Prophet, Allah's blessing be upon him. That Gog and Magog will travel to Jerusalem. And on the way to Jerusalem, they'll pass by the Sea of Galilee and drink the water. Now this is not muhkama. And so when the second qarn of QARNain is to come, where do you search for evidence that we now have the second qarn? Answer, at the Black Sea. And if you know any geography, Crimea commands the Black Sea. Crimea, the peninsula of Crimea, commands the Black Sea. That the second qarn of QARNain is now with us. It has started. Because power has now returned to the region of the Black Sea. Since Russia recovered Crimea and now commands the whole of the Black Sea. The second qarn has come because Russia has power bestowed on it by Allah. And that power is now resting on the foundations of faith, because Russia is returning to her Orthodox Christian heart, because they hate Russia, because Russia defeated them in Syria and in Iraq. And so this video is to say to you that the second qarn of QARNain will do the same thing that the first qarn did. And that is that Gog and Magog are going to be checkmated in the second qarn. And so Russia cannot lose the war in Ukraine. This is the substance of my talk. That Russia, it is impossible. Russia cannot lose this war in Ukraine. Russia does not have to win the war, defeat Ukraine. Russia simply has to contain Gog and Magog, so that they pose no threat to Russia, and they can no longer oppress the Russian-speaking people in the south of Ukraine. Since Russia cannot be defeated in Ukraine, we say to you, this is Islamic eschatology. Thank you. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.